question we have is from Jessica. Hi Jessica. She asks, I usually can't have milk and milk-based products because I feel sick afterwards. What can I use? Yes, so Jessica, poor you that you can't have milk-based products, but it's easily fixed. So just to give a little bit of context to the rest of our audience, there are some individuals who cannot take dairy. They get severe side effects or minor side effects like an upset tummy, diarrhea, lots of cramping and pain in the stomach. And this is because they lack the enzyme to break down one of the components in dairy. Usually it's the lactose in the dairy that they can't break down, and if you can't break down the lactose just causes all sorts of yucky side effects. So Jessica, if you want to have that ice cream and that milkshake, you need to go to the pharmacy and get some lactase. So there are a couple of brands on the market that contain this ingredient called lactase. So lactase is the actual enzyme that you can take that will break down the lactose component of the dairy. Have I lost you yet? I hope not. So Jessica, so half an hour or 15 minutes to half an hour before you want to have that ice cream or you want to have that milkshake, you take the lactase tablets and you just allow it to absorb into your system, and then you go ahead and have your dairy food that you were looking at. Whoops. So what I would recommend, Jessica, is you do a test run. So, you know, take it 15 minutes to half an hour before and just have a little bit of dairy and see how you go. I wouldn't go on smashing 3 scoops of ice cream unless they're chopped caramel, which would be really nice, but don't do that. So yeah, you can do that half an hour before and see how you go. And you know, we have a lot of patients who find it to be really useful. So on those days where you're really craving dairy or you want to try a particular sweet especially, you can do that. Cool. Jessica, I hope that answered your question. So go in and see your pharmacist. I know you're not in Melbourne, you're in New South Wales, but every pharmacy should have lactase in stock, and there's a couple of brands. So thanks for your question, Jessica. Kat asked during the week, what's the difference between regular vitamins and practitioner vitamins? So as many of you know, we're really big proponents of natural medicines here at Priceline Pharmacy, West Brunswick. And yeah, you definitely see a whole stack of practitioner vitamins that you see behind the counter here in the dispensary. And it's a really good question. So what's the difference between the two of them? So your regular vitamins that are kept out in the front of the store where you can access yourself are pretty good. But generally we find that practitioner vitamins contain much better quality products, much better quality dosage. So the dosages are actually been researched to be therapeutic doses. So you know they do their own testing and they do their own internal trials, if you will, to determine the best the therapeutic dose that you need to use. Usually they contain formulations which involve an interaction with the pharmacist because the dose is so high, or you know, it may interfere with some people's medications that they be taking for their medical conditions. So that's the main difference, and that explains the general price difference between practitioner medicines and practitioner vitamins and the regular vitamins you get out in the store. So generally, of course, we always recommend the practitioner. We tend to recommend the practitioner vitamins a little bit more because of the amazing doses and the amazing quality of the products that you get in there. So for instance, if we just to take an example like fish oil, they're sourced sustainably. The dosage is correct. So with the example of, hey Steph, with the example of fish oils, typically the ones that you get on the other side of the shop where you can help self-select, they don't contain the right dosage of fish oils, and you need to take, and it's written in fine print, you need to take a lot to get the therapeutic effect. Whereas many of the practitioner ones are super concentrated, and you don't need to take as much. We will always determine the right product for you, so you may not necessarily need a practitioner vitamin, just depending on what you're treating. You may be able to get away with just a regular, what we call a front of shop vitamin. So I hope, Kat, that answered your question. Nick asks, how do I treat warts? Well, there are different types of treatments for warts. Great question, Nick. So what we have for warts, there are 2 different types of treatments. Probably should take a step back and talk about warts. So warts are a viral infection that we all have, or the virus lives in our skin, and usually when the warts come out to play when there's constant pressure being applied, or you know, when they've been irritated, when the skin has been irritated in some prolonged way, and the warts come out. So the best way, there's two methodologies of treating it. One you probably see in the pharmacy. There is a wart paint and a wart freezing off product kind of option. As I said, Nicholas, we need to make sure that those treatment options are appropriate. They're not really appropriate for diabetics because they tend to eat away at the skin, and once they eat away at the skin, you risk the chance of having an infection, and you get a whole other set of dramas from there. So, Nicholas, would I be so there's to answer your question, two different types. There is the liquid, liquid and ointment, which contains ingredients like salicylic acid and podophyllin, which you can put onto your skin. It's really important that you surround the wart with some Vaseline or something like that, like the Vaseline old school ointment that stops the wart treatment from running onto the good skin, and usually you need to apply that on twice a day for a couple of weeks or so. The other option that's really popular is, and that's the more convenient option, is using the wart like a freezing type option, which you can get in a canister nowadays, and that basically you just put it directly onto the wart, and that sort of kills the wart, and the surrounding skin underneath it kind of like freezes it off, and then and the wart drops off over the next 7 to 10 days. So that's how we treat warts, Nicholas. Those two different types of things you can use, products you can use, but please come in and see us because we need to make sure that that you can take them. Fourth, last question, excuse me, is from Johnny the trainer. Thank you, Johnny. He asks, what's the difference between good and bad cholesterol? Awesome question. Let's go. So basically, just a quick refresher, Johnny. Cholesterols are lipids in the cells, and that are found in the membranes of the cells, on the outside of the cells, and they're also found in our blood plasma, and that's in our blood, and they're actually essential for a whole heap of. So cholesterol is essential in a whole heap of body processes. Most notably, it's used to make hormones. So yeah, we definitely need cholesterol. So let's talk about good cholesterol, which is otherwise known as HDL, or high density lipoprotein. I won't geek out on all the terms, but the main function of this good cholesterol, HDL, it takes the cholesterol from the body's tissues back to the liver to be excreted out. So it removes any excess cholesterol out of the body. That's the HDL. The LDL is a low density lipoprotein, and in a nutshell, it takes cholesterol from the liver to the tissue, and takes it around the body. Now, so that's the bad cholesterol. So within the LDLs, there are different types of LDLs, and typically the research is coming out now that the bad cholesterol is caused by these smaller LDL particles, which then attach to your blood vessels and cause inflammation. Typically what we know as atherosclerosis. Ooh, my pronunciation is pretty bad. But it's basically just build-up of plaques in the arteries. So that's the LDL side of things, or the bad LDL side of things. A common question that we got with that is, how do you get those LDLs, those small LDLs? It's usually caused by a diet high in simple carbohydrates that promote the formation of smaller LDL particles. That's the bad cholesterol side of things. So just to recap, good cholesterol, HDL, takes the cholesterol away from the body and excretes it. The bad cholesterol pumps it back into the system, but within that there's a few different types, and it's the smaller LDL particles. So I don't want to geek out on all this stuff, but that's basically it. And usually when you get a total cholesterol test, it measures the total cholesterol, and what we're now encouraging and what doctors are doing now, and pathologies, are measuring the amount of HDL and LDL as well, because to give you a better picture of what's going on. Hopefully that answered your question, Johnny, in a very simple format. Great question. So guys, thank you again for persevering with us on our third live Q&A, and funnily enough, the third one that we had to do for today with all the sound issues. Unsure what happened. As always, remember, this is general advice. Come in and see us. we can give you specific advice for your condition. I'm not a doctor, general advice, and any medicines that you use, please make sure that you check the directions and use always only as directed. So I'll be back next week. Make sure that you like and share this video. Any questions that you may have and you're unable to make it next week, please make sure you put it in the comments section below. Like, share, let everybody know, and you know, my aim is to give immense value to our community here in West Brunswick, and answer any questions that you may have. So Alvin signing out. I'm going to check on the audio again. Hopefully I don't have to do this again because I'm done talking. So thanks guys, have a great weekend. Bye.